So our tasks primarily are focused around stakeholder engagement. We do that in a few different ways. We start with the stakeholder mapping so that we have an overview of all of the relevant participants that we might want to include, from governance, policy, practitioners, and deciding how best to include them in the events over the project.
Stakeholder mapping identifies all the actors who influence or are affected by forestry policy. It helps ensure that policymakers, practitioners, researchers, and civil society are all part of the conversation, and determines how their perspectives are included throughout the project. This process also provides the foundation for the ForestPaths Policy Labs, and determines who is invited to participate in them.
So the Policy Lab is a series. There are 4 of them, ideally one every year. They're the flagship events that happen within the overall Policy Engagement Forum. The structure is similar in that we provide insight into the project to the stakeholders, and more importantly for us, we elicit the ideas from this broad range of stakeholders to key inputs to the project. That changes over the cycle of the series of the labs. The first was focused on the challenges and opportunities, really giving insight into the different parts of the project, but also really eliciting policy perspectives and also some of the variables that participants might want, geographical, spatial, those types of variables. The second lab was really focused on the vision, so where we want to see the future of forestry by 2050. So combining all the different components of what would constitute a vision. So key aspects, values, policy, everything that was relevant to the project that would then allow us in the third lab to build our policy pathways. And then in the fourth lab, we're making policy recommendations.
The format is a space for ongoing dialogue, where stakeholders from across policy, practice, and research come together to co-create the future of forest policy. Each policy lab builds on the previous ones, feeding ideas straight into policy pathways, scenario analyses, and recommendations that help guide Europe's forests toward climate and biodiversity goals.
We actually find that it's really beneficial to the project to, as much as possible, have the same participants joining each subsequent lab, particularly after the second lab, because that's the point where we create the visions. So it's really helpful to have the same participants to help take the visions and then start to create the pathways, and then also evaluate the efficacy of those. But of course, we don't want to just lock into these people. We revisit with our stakeholder mapping to decide, are there perhaps some categories more or less relevant to subsequent labs. So we write an extensive report after each of the labs, and the second one being where we got our visions. We're in the process of deciding at what level of detail to kind of share these visions, because we have a lot of different avenues as well. We have our website, we have our general LinkedIn page for the project, but we also have our LinkedIn page for the Policy Engagement Forum, where we feel like there's much more need for detail there so that we can actually have a discussion around these different aspects of the visions.